We work with over 68 schools, but none of those 68 schools have what? In a solar kitchen. Some schools actually are able to mobilize food, but they don't have firewood. The whole place has sugarcane, so firewood is costly for them. So as we talk about children eating in school, we have to think about those interconnected issues that stop them from what? From moving forward.
Ana mara ranka, ana mar nyoha, mia ana kwana be, mia ana panini class, mia maru nyoha, mia yeng.
As World Vision, we recognize that it is very important for every school to embrace school feeding program. When we started the school feeding program, we provided seeds to establish school gardening to support the school feeding program. And this has been going on so well.
In Aluoropi Primary School, our children always eat at school. From nursery to P2, they always take porridge at school. And this porridge, it is from parent contribution and also from the school garden where we plant maize. And we have about 300 of them taking porridge at school. From P3 to P7, there is that emphasis that they have to eat at school.
If I go back home, it will take long to me to go back home. Yes, but it is here. We don't take long to eat food. All the time, we get breakfast, lunch, and then we come back to in the class.
Ginumia marche school. Yen mia no gufu. Genda mia pada dakpa yem de kadakpa. Ada hanu chamona hadakpa. Ada de chakuluor kwano.
Before the children were getting food from school, Many of them used to escape from school before the time for leaving for home.
I've seen so many benefits of this eating from school. One, since 2023, it has improved on our performance. So from Division 3, since 2023 is no longer there in Aluoropi Primary School, it's because of school feeding program. It has also increased my enrollment.
Some of the challenges that we have been able to see as an obstacle to supporting the school feeding program is the limited support by some of the head teachers. You realize that within the school, they are not very positive about supporting the school feeding program.
Sometimes the season is not favorable. The parents may not have good harvest.
However, we are still in constant engagement with different stakeholders, including our Citizen Voice and Action, to make sure that all schools now adopt school feeding program to ensure that every child at least gets a midday meals at school.
To the government, I would say that they should even continue advocating for the school feeding program.
If the government can give us seeds and some tools, agricultural tools.
Meron yung alkel gini siem. Siyaw kukom. Siyaw pore. Pieno anda re kwan kan. Kira medak pa wi siem lo nudu petie.
Ana marcha maranga kere wunga.
School feeding programs are not just about food. They are about education, health, and equality. Every child deserves to learn without hunger. That is why our school and leaders should make school feeding a priority.
It is joy, excitement, and celebration in Njeru, Chirolo, and Mulonzi for the just completed piped water scheme. Nakasongola is known for dry spells, droughts, and water has really been a great challenge in the communities where we serve. I have experienced children taking a lot of time looking for water, as the tradition is. It is the women and the children who look for the water. And it has been like the case here, children and mothers looking for the water. And also animals dying in the peak periods of drought. But we are grateful and celebrate on behalf of the community that World Vision, working together with the community, we have been able to establish a project and is completed now. I've seen on ground what is happening, where at one point I would meet children. They've not gone to school just because they have to look for water. And this was a pain, but today I stand with joy to say that at least we'll have realized impact, where children can access water at school and even at home, where women no longer take a lot of time to look for water. And I'm glad that even at household levels, men are coming in to make sure that they have the water in their own households. They can fetch water at any time. And it is good that the yield is high, unlike even the other water points like the boreholes where the yield is low and it takes a lot of energy for them to be pumping the water. But now here they just open and anyone can access, even the children, they can open and draw the water. The children with disabilities, they can open and draw the water and they are able to take home.
My name is Ryan. I am 14 years old. Before, when I went to school, my stomach was always empty. The teachers would ask questions, but my head felt like the answers were hiding far away. Sometimes I even thought of going back home because it is hard to learn when you haven't eaten. But everything changed because of my mother. This is my mother. She works in the fields every day, even when the heat is sharp and the ground is very dry. She grows sorghum, beans, maize, and sunflower. Before, she sold them at the market for very little money. But one day,
She added that World Food Program was buying food from farmers like her. She did not believe it at first, but she went to see for herself. Soon, she was delivering bags of her maize to World Food Program. A few weeks later, our school started giving us meals, and the food tasted familiar. One day, our teachers told us, this food is from farmers from here in Karamoja, maybe even your own. That evening, I asked Mama, is this your maize? She laughed and said, maybe. Eat well and read well. That is why I work. Now I go to school excited. My stomach is full and my mind feels strong. I can answer questions, I can finish my work, I even help my friends. Tomorrow, I will go to school again, but this time, I won't go angry. I will go ready.
We work with over 68 schools, but none of those 68 schools have what? A solar kitchen. Some schools actually are able to mobilize food, but they don't have firewood. The whole place has sugarcane, so firewood is costly for them. So as we talk about children eating in school, we have to think about those interconnected issues that stop them from what? From moving forward.
Ana mara ranka, ana mar nyoha, mia ana kwana be, mia ana panini class, mia maru nyoha, mia yeng.
As World Vision, we recognize that it is very important for every school to embrace school feeding program. When we started the school feeding program, we provided seeds to establish school gardening to support the school feeding program. And this has been going on so well.
In Aluoropi Primary School, our children always eat at school. From nursery to P2, they always take porridge at school. And this porridge, it is from parent contribution and also from the school garden where we plant maize. And we have about 300 of them taking porridge at school. From P3 to P7, there is that emphasis that they have to eat at school.
If I go back home, it take long to me to go back home. Yes, but it is here. We don't take long to eat food. All the time, we get breakfast, lunch, and then we come back to in the class.
Gino mia mar chem school. Yen mia no gufu. Gena mia pada dakpa yem de kadakpa. Ada hanu chang na dakpa. Ada de chakuluor kwano.
Before the children were getting food from school, many of them used to escape from school before the time for leaving for home.
I've seen so many benefits of this eating from school. One, since 2023, it has improved on our performance. So from Division 3, since 2023 is no longer there in Aluoropi Primary School, it's because of school feeding program. It has also increased my enrollment.
Some of the challenges that we have been able to see as an obstacle to supporting the school feeding program is the limited support by some of the head teachers. You realize that within the school, they are not very positive about supporting the school feeding program.
Sometimes the season is not favorable. The parents may not have good harvest.
However, we are still in constant engagement with different stakeholders, including our citizen voice and action, to make sure that all schools now adopt school feeding program to ensure that every child at least gets a midday meals at school.
To the government, I would say that they should even continue advocating for the school feeding program.
If the government can give us seeds and some tools, agricultural tools,
Amiro ni nyual kel gini chiem. Shawi ku kom. Shaw pore. Pien no anda de kwan kan. Kira me dok pa wi chiem lo nudu petie.
Ana marcha maranga kerewunga.
School feeding programs are not just about food. They are about education, health, and equality. Every child deserves to learn without hunger. That is why our school and leaders should make school feeding a priority.
It is joy, excitement, and celebration in Jeru, Chirolo, and Mulonzi for the just completed piped water scheme. Nakasongola is known for dry spells, droughts, and water has really been a great challenge in the communities where we serve. I have experienced children taking a lot of time looking for water, as the tradition is. It is the women and the children who look for the water. And it has been like the case here, children and mothers looking for the water. And also animals dying in the peak periods of drought. But we are grateful and celebrate on behalf of the community that World Vision, working together with the community, we have been able to establish a project and it's completed now. I've seen on ground what is happening, where at one point I would meet children. They've not gone to school just because they have to look for water. And this was a pain, but today I stand with joy to say that at least we have realized impact where children can access water at school and even at home, where women no longer take a lot of time to look for water. And I'm glad that even at household levels, men are coming in to make sure that they have the water in their own households. They can fetch water at any time. And it is good that the yield is high, unlike even the other water points like the boreholes where the yield is low and it takes a lot of energy for them to be pumping the water. But now here they just open and anyone can access, even the children, they can open and draw the water. The children with disabilities, they can open and draw the water and they are able to take home.
My name is Ryan. I am 14 years old. Before, when I went to school, my stomach was always empty. The teachers would ask questions, but my head felt like the answers were hiding far away. Sometimes I even thought of going back home because it is hard to learn when you haven't eaten. But everything changed because of my mother. This is my mother. She works in the fields every day, even when the heat is sharp and the ground is very dry. She grows sorghum, beans, maize, and sunflower. Before, she sold them at the market for very little money. But one day, she heard that World Food Program was buying food from farmers like her. She did not believe it at first, but she went to see for herself. Soon, she was delivering bags of her maize to World Food Program. A few weeks later, our school started giving us milk, and the food tasted familiar. One day, our teachers told us, this food is from farmers from here in Karamoja, maybe even your homes.
Yes, good morning. My name is Eric Kakole. The room is quite packed. I may not be able to get each and everyone's names because that would take a lot of time, but I would have loved to. But you get to know those that are presenting, and we get to know you by registration. The registration is going around. So this morning, we are receiving the results of the National School Feeding Baseline Survey. This survey was launched by the Ministry of Education in September 2025, and the consultant moved around the country, gathered information. As the ministry, we were able to look at this report before, And we made our comments, and now we are disseminating these results to you, the key stakeholders. So again, the program is very simple. We are going to have presentations from the Ministry of Education by the representative of the PS, from the World Food Program by the current trade director, and the representative of current trade director, World Vision. The purpose of today is basically to give you the information and also hear from you about these results. So without wasting any time, I would want to call my co-host. Where is she? Catherine? Yes, please come and they see you.
Good morning, everyone. All protocol observed. Thank you for coming. My name is Catherine Guntese Naluja, and I work with World Vision. I do advocacy and campaigns. I'm the officer. Would like to welcome you to this venue and for attending today's moment. And it is with this regard I would like to invite the permanent secretary. Thank you.
Allow me to recognize you in your different capacities so that I don't create a protocol glitch. So good morning to you all. I'm called Francis Atim. I'm not the permanent secretary, but I'm representing the permanent secretary. I bring greetings from Dr. Kedres to the agenda, who is the permanent secretary, who would have wanted to be with us, but due to equally other important commitments, she may or she may not join us, but she has given us her blessing. Otherwise, I'm the one who chairs the school feeding program in the Ministry of Education and Sports, and I am currently heading the Directorate of Education Standards. Just allow me to, in my remarks, first of all, to thank you all for coming and responding to the invitation, and in a very special way to thank World Vision and World Food Program who have sponsored this function and also the baseline study. Thank you so much. Let's appreciate them. And equally all those who have supported them in one way or the other. I would also like to thank the consultants who've done quite a very good job within the shortest time. And this gives us a bearing on what is on the ground, what we need to do, what we need to do better. So I just thought that maybe, I know already you know this, but for just purposes of rekindling our minds, that we can get back to the historical perspective where we started from. And as you see, I may not read word by word, that in the pre-2000s, school feeding was already in place, but it was informally done, and it was done by the community and the parents. That's what used to be. And probably some of us were part of that arrangement. And still within the same period, we now started having donor support, especially for the food insecure regions, and that is Karamoja sub-region. So we progressed in 2008, where the Education Act places core responsibility for feeding of children at school to the parents and the guardians. So that is what is stated currently in the Education Act. In 2013, the Ministry of Education had a school feeding and nutrition guidelines to provide a practical basis for implementation. And when we progressed between 2013 to 2018, we started the pilots, and World Food Program and others reinforce the linkages between meals and local procurements. And in 2021, we had the Uganda Nutrition Action Plan 2, which recognizes that school feeding and nutrition as part of a safe, supportive environment. And where we are now, of course, looking at, we joined the School Meals Coalition, and we are working towards having a policy. We've also done more donor support has come on board. So we are saying that the agenda has moved from responsibility of households to a national discussion on systems, financing, and local food economics. Now, when we get to the next slide, this is just to give us the policy and development architecture. We have the Vision 2040, talks about a transformed Uganda society from a peasant to a modern and prosperous country. The NDP 4 emphasizes, among others, improved learning outcomes, social protection, and local economic development. We have the National School Feeding Policy, a draft, which is focusing on governance, financing, implementation, and accountability. We have the Uganda Nutrition Action Plan, emphasizes on better diets and nutrition outcomes for school-age children. We have the National Social Protection Policy, it talks about productive social protection and human capital investment. And then, as we all know, government has been at the forefront at the implementation of the parish development model, which could be what we can leverage on, linking school demand with local farmer production. When you get to the next slide, it's really talking more, next slide please. It's really key priorities that we want to focus on to accelerate school feeding. So we have issues around food systems development, increasing participation of local farmers in food supply chain. I think you've seen some of the clips. Promoting climate-reliant, locally produced food, strengthen aggregation, storage, and markets. And then we have the multi-sector coordination, strengthen multi-sectoral collaboration, improving monitoring, learning, and evidence generation, leveraging on data to inform policy and investment. And I think that's why we are here today. We would like to see what the data tells us. We have issues around policy operationalization, finalizing the feeding policy, strengthening institutional arrangements, promoting accountability and quality standards, and then sustainable financing. How do we explore sustainable financing mechanisms, enhance public investment, strengthen partnership with development and private actors? And all this is aimed at achieving universal, sustainable school feeding. The next slide is just really a summary of some of our key milestones. There are many others. Now we have the sector coordination framework, and those meetings have been ongoing to support. We have had a national school survey, which was conducted in those number of schools. And for us, it's a big milestone. And then the draft feeding policy, but we've also reviewed the basic requirements and minimum standards for schools to take cognizance of issues around food safety and security and others. And then I think almost finally, since we don't have time in the next draft, those are just some of the examples of school feeding interventions. And you can see that we are not yet there. We have about 5,211,732 learners in primary schools, that is public schools. And if you see the coverage so far is just about 49%. So that, of course, gives us more work to do to ensure that all our children have a meal. In the next slide, this is the paradox where we are, Uganda, school feeding challenge. It's not food scarcity, but access and systems. And lastly, just a quotation from an unknown origin, which I got, and that is that the full stomachs, full classrooms, and full futures. So having said that, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you once again. And as Minister of Education and Sports, we like to, Eric, what did you want me to do? To open. Okay. I take this singular opportunity on behalf of the Ministry of Education and Sports to open the dissemination baseline survey. Thank you.
A representative of the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education and Sports. Madam, thank you so much for showing us the journey that Uganda has been on. Please allow me to stand on the established protocol and say good morning to everyone. Thank you for being here today. It's really a great pleasure for me to join you at this important event. And on behalf of the World Food Programme, in our capacity as a co-chair of the National School Feeding Working Group, I extend my sincere appreciation to the Ministry of Education and Sport for its leadership throughout this process. And I also want to thank all the institutions, partners, and districts that contributed their time, expertise, and commitment to making this important milestone possible. At the same time, let me acknowledge World Vision and the partnership that we have across multiple areas here in Uganda, but especially today when it comes to school feeding. And I also want to acknowledge the foundations Novo Nordisk and Rockefeller, whose financial support has allowed WFP to play the role that we have. Today's event is much more than the launch of a report. It marks an important step towards building a stronger evidence base for school feeding in Uganda. Good policy begins with good evidence, and good investment decisions require reliable data. For many years, one of the biggest challenges facing school feeding has been the absence of nationally representative data. We've had fundamental questions that we've struggled to answer, like how many children receive meals at school? Which children are left behind? What foods are being provided? Who pays for these meals? Where does the food come from? Today's findings begin to answer these questions and provide the country with a common reference point for planning and investment. I think it's fair to say the survey presents both encouraging progress but also a clear call to action. It tells us that nearly half of Uganda's primary school learners do receive a meal at school. The survey also highlights an important equity challenge. While 46% of primary school learners receive school meals nationally, access varies widely from 98% in Karamoja, where WFP has been working with the government for many years, to 92% here in Kampala, but then down to just 22% in Lango, 21% in Acholi, and 17% in West Nile. 3 in every 10 students still spend the whole day at school without having anything to eat at all. So access to school meals is not uniform across the country, and a national school feeding policy presents an opportunity to promote equitable access to school meals for all. The baseline also reinforces an important message. School feeding cannot be viewed only as a social intervention. It's an investment in education outcomes, child nutrition, local agriculture, and economic development. Every school meal has the potential to improve attendance, concentration, and learning, enhance the nutrition of children at a critical stage in their development and growth, while creating predictable markets for farmers and stimulating rural economies. As the government moves towards finalizing the national school feeding policy, this evidence comes at exactly the right time. The survey provides a strong foundation for policy formulation, program design, resource mobilization, and future monitoring. It also establishes the benchmark against which Uganda will measure progress in the years ahead. All of us partners remain optimistic that there will indeed be impressive progress in all these areas in the coming years. So I encourage all stakeholders represented here today to use these findings. Let this evidence inform our planning, budgeting, advocacy, programming, and investment decisions. Let's also ensure that school feeding indicators become part of our national monitoring systems so that future decisions continue to be driven by evidence. As the World Food Programme, we remain committed to supporting school feeding. We'll continue supporting the government through evidence generation, technical assistance, institutional capacity strengthening, and program implementation. We remain committed to supporting the development of a sustainable, nationally owned school feeding system. Finally, I'd like to commend the Ministry of Education and Sports for its leadership and all partners who've walked this journey together. It is together that we have an opportunity to transform these findings into practical solutions that improve the lives, learning, and future of millions of young Ugandans. Thank you very much.
Again, you know, I work in the Ministry of Education and it's teachers and students. So, students, again, I would want to recognize the chairperson, Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Quality Education, who is here. She'll give her remarks as we go into the presentation. But for now, I would want to to invite the representative of World Vision, Mr. Edward Kauka, the programs director representing the country director. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, guests of honor, representing our permanent secretary, Madam France, you're most welcome. Our UN agencies, civil society, media, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Yeah, as World Vision, we are extremely excited that we are here in this platform to discuss a fundamental right to the children. And by the names like Eric has mentioned, I'm Edward Hauha. I'm the Programs Operations Director representing the National Director who is engaged in another national event in Jinja. I am extremely excited to be here and delighted that we've moved this journey from 2008 to now, and great milestones have been achieved. And as World Vision, a humanitarian development community-based organization, we want to appreciate all our partners. WFP, you have been a critical partner, plus other partners in very, very vulnerable communities. And we appreciate you. Kindly join me in appreciating these partners. Yeah, World Vision is committed to making a positive and lasting difference in Uganda, in collaboration and complementing the Ministry of Education and other ministries in our government in transforming the lives of children, their families, and their communities. We believe every child deserves a life rich in meaning and purpose. Every child deserves a life of a meaningful purpose. And in 2024, World Vision launched a global campaign to end child hunger and malnutrition, and we named it Enough. The goal of this campaign is to create a world where every child enjoys enough nourishing food so that they can thrive. One of the strategic goals of the campaign is aligned to ensure that more children enjoy better food, security, nutrition, and resilience through prioritized services. Colleagues, you and me know that this is really fundamental for our children. And we joined the government through the Ministry of Education in ensuring that we implement the Nutrition Action Plan. In bringing this to practical evidence, like we showed in the videos, we have reached 123,000 children in our partnership with WFP in West Nile, in Karamoja. We've registered significance in terms of how children are able to be enrolled in school and complete school. And that, for me, and as World Vision, is a critical contribution to our government. We want to continue emphasize that the report that will be presented today, this baseline finding, provide a basis of evidence on which we are able to program and highlight the strength that we have, the disparities that we have in access, financing, and implementation. The need for a strong policy can never be underemphasized. The development of a school feeding policy is really timely, and it would be my request that we fast track this, and we should have begun implementation yesterday. It is my humble commitment on behalf of World Vision Uganda that we will continue to fulfill our commitment in line with the School Meals Coalition and clear demonstration of government's strong political will to ensure meals for all learners. I mean, all learners. It provides hope for learners, not only food. It provides hope for learners for their future. And it will guide processes related to planning, design, implementation, and monitoring of school feeding programs based by the state and non-state actors, all inclusive. With the framework in place, I trust stakeholders will be better coordinated. I mean, we will better coordinate ourselves, mobilized to support school feeding program in a more structured, sustainable ways. In addition, strengthen accountability among key players and promote efficiency in the school feeding program. Our guests of honor, today's discussion evidently reaffirms school feeding as a multi-sectoral subject, linking education, agriculture, health, and social protection for our children, wash, energy utilization, the private sector, the media, among others. I hope that today we can continue to mobilize policymakers to adopt the school feeding policy, develop national guidance on the minimum nutrition, hygiene, and safety standards for all school feeding initiatives. 2, we pray that this will promote local resourcing by encouraging schools to procure from farmer cooperatives that exist in the communities, to strengthen rural economies and reduce post-harvest losses. We encourage that the private sector and partners to invest in the cold chain storage, fuel-efficient cooking management, and equally promote awareness among parents and communities to understand direct linkage between school meals, their children's health, school attendance, and learning outcomes. Finally, guests of honor, it is without emphasis that if you invest $1 in the school health and nutrition program, the return is $10. You invest $1 in ensuring children are healthy and are acquiring better nutrition, and you will have a better return of $10. Investing in school meal program is not only the right thing to do. Guests of honor, it's not only the right thing to do, but it is a strategic imperative that will greatly contribute to driving Uganda's double-digit growth aspiration. As World Vision and other partners that we work with, we believe a life of plenty for every child is possible. It might look so big. I was discussing with the colleagues there that you can invest in small things and be able to achieve greater things. And we believe it is possible. That means enough of the right foods, enough, even in the crisis, enough funding for nutrition, and strengthen sustainable food feeding program is not only about food, it is about child well-being. It's about improved lives. It's about building Uganda's future workforce, as envisioned in Uganda's Vision 2040. I pray that from here, we will see a better implementation of our school feeding program with a policy that enables us to be well coordinated, structured, and monitored as we implement the school feeding program. I pray. May God bless you and have a blessed discussion.
Class again. Thank you so much. May I invite the chairperson, Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Quality Education, to make her brief remarks. And I would invite my co-host to be near. Okay, all right. Welcome. This is the last presentation, and after which we get into the results.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. The Permanent Secretary Representative, the World Vision, and all protocol observed. Allow me to mention the people I came with. I have Honorable Chisa Stephen, and his constituency is Luka Wamusoga, and is the treasurer of the Uganda Parliamentary Quality Education. Also came with another person. This is a person who was in the field, because for us we decided that let us go on the ground and come up with a research finding that we can talk about, because at times we get lost. And this is Joseph Mutumba. We sent about 2 people, but the other one had an emergency. That's why he's not here. And I'm Rabushija Margaret Namubiru, and I am a member of Parliament. I represent the workers in Parliament. But I'm a teacher by profession, and I did my work, but I still am concerned. Even when in Parliament, that's why we said quality education. But it is a forum, not the one that where the government sits and say this one should not come, this one should come. So for us, we knew that it is important to go on the ground whenever we see something amiss. The treasurer I came with, I don't want to forget that he owns privately 5 schools, and I think about all of them were in Mukono. So he's one of the people who are supporting the children of this country. And for us, as a parliament, we are invited, but later on things changed and we started getting people to represent us, because we knew that when we are talking about quality education, we are talking about the today and the future. I also would want to say what are our findings. I will be very brief because I'm always concerned about time. And because of that, to me or to us, what we saw on the ground, a lot has been done, and we are happy about it. But also, we are looking at our development model, which the president and his government came up with. It is so important, and to me, or to us, we say that we should even make it. I've been with my brother there. We have been in different meetings in Kyankwanzi. We have been in Labor Day. Everywhere where we go, they have told us that a lot has been done because of PDM. So if that's that, then we should not leave it behind, and we should go down, not just to say the children have food, but these days with the PDM, we know that people have left where they were, but they have got very close, and it helps us to make sure that our children are feeding well. And as I say that, I would wish that if possible, it should be a priority of the government and here Ministry of Education to go down, because you know that in primary we have always, when we have people that we must call to be part of the people who are needed, and not because they have food, but we have always been talking about management committee in every school. It should not be about those who have gone to school or who went to school, but we should also those who have excelled in the around the where the school is, and they are doing very well. So we should put them and know that they are important to us. When it comes to secondary, we will have management committees, and they should be part of the management committee. And when we bring them together near, and we know that some of them already have even circles, so it means that there is a commitment which we should not lose of these people. They should come and be part of the management of the schools, because of what they know, what is being in every area in the district. They know which group is has Kasoli as the support, others beans, but also we have the different groups, but they should not be ignored. To me, it is very, very important from where we are, because everybody has accepted that it has helped us, and there is a change in the society. And other than that, when you talk about evaluation, I talk about evaluation because it was done when our people were going out. We had columns. We had those of the cash to school. And how would the school be involved? Because they will give them also money if they have kasoli, beans, whatever they want, they can also produce it. And it can be regular because they will be more committed to the cause. Then also, the parent-led is what I talked about earlier, that they should be, these examples, good examples, they should also be part of the society, so that even the children know that when you take them for agriculture, you are committing them for the future, and they see what is happening at home. And so, at times there is a sustainability, because you might want the kasoli, or what we call posho, but then you don't have it. We don't say it must be only that. because we have a lot of groups of people coming up with the different products. And also, if we took the model, we shall get more. But if we don't, if they have very little to give the school, then you know that there will be a challenge. You have to go outside to another district. That one takes a lot of time and money. So also, co-efficiency is important. When the school is close to those who are involved in the parish model, and so that one, the results will be higher. You will not be suffering to say, where do we go now for this food? It's not that. And also when there is we should also take them to support them to see how can they keep what they have done. If you have food and you don't have a market at that time, we can tell them and support them. Can we get where we can sow our food, not you as a school, but also the people who give you what you want. And also, when we talked about nutrition, it is important so that we don't give one type of food, but also we can encourage those people who have excelled also to put or to grow what you want as a school. And they will be happy also to know that they are getting money. And other than that, I'm about to end. I don't want to take a lot of time. Also, it is important that as we move, let us plan and inform. We have also information systems for people to know that if you do well, the school will be, you would get more food. But if you are sending everyone away, they also go very far away. So we need to have some kind of encouragement, but also train one another. Because some of us as teachers, and they will know about many of us, it's about how the school, it is about academics only. But let us also encourage so that we don't only buy from outside. And I feel that it would also be important for the government to follow up and see how are people moving, because we have people who are on the ground who can help us. We have also councils up to the district. So they should be involved, and we don't leave others because it's LC1, those one we don't talk to them. So we should make when we get them get them together, they will also try to make sure that the mission for what you called them is also moving out, so that everybody gets concerned with the time. And I thank you so much. And we shall continue as people who are concerned about education, but not education only, because they must eat. I thank you so much. Bless you.
Class again. Thank you so much from the peers now to the Chairperson Quality Education Parliamentary Forum. We have come to the end of the presentations from our bosses. Now we want to hear exactly what brought us here, which are the results from the survey. And I would want to use this opportunity to call upon Mr. Saul. He will say all his name, but is the lead consultant on this survey. So you're welcome, Saul.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I recognize you in your different capacities, and I ride on the protocol that has been already established. If you could put the slide. Let me start by, Let me start by introducing myself. By names, I'm called Saul Onyango. My professional background is health. I'm a medical doctor by profession. After a short stint in the clinical area, I ran away and went into public health, where I spent most of my professional life. Worked for the government, put in at least 20 years, and they accepted that I could retire. Then for the last many years, I've been working with IBFAN Uganda and as an independent consultant. This baseline survey was done by IBFAN Uganda, which stands for the International Baby Food Action Network. We talk of baby foods, but actually the non-government organization focuses on promoting, protecting, and supporting breastfeeding. So actually they are breastfeeding champions involved in a number of activities and interventions related to breastfeeding. But more related to this area where I'm standing, we have been involved in conducting assessments over the years. We have been the main institution doing the food security and nutrition assessments supported by the World Food Program over the last many years in Karamoja. And this was our first activity in the education sector. So that's how we write IBFAN, International Baby Food Action Network, not promoting formula, but working to support, promote, and protect breastfeeding. Next slide, please. The presentation is going to have a brief introduction. I will highlight the objectives of the survey, mention something about the methodology, then go into the survey findings, something about the SEBA report findings, and then the recommendations in the report. Next slide, please. So by way of rationale, at the time when we were being assigned this task, it was on the grounds that there was no national data on school feeding or national representative data, and there was need to have a comprehensive baseline study. And this study was focusing on updating data or providing an updated data on school feeding in the country, making sure that there is recent data to report towards government commitment, such as the Global School Feeding Coalition. It was to act as a reference point and for evidence on policy-related dialogue in relation to school feeding. And then it was to inform the framework for integrating indicators so that we could make the monitoring of school feeding part of the information system. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes. Our terms of reference primarily was to establish the status, the coverage, and quality of school feeding interventions, but with a specific focus on primary level education. The survey scope was nationwide in coverage, including the government and private schools, urban-based and rural-based schools, boarding as well as boarding as well as day schools. And we went into a review of existing documentation on school feeding. SEBA, we shall be going into that in detail, but for purposes of introducing it now, refers to the systems approach for better education results. So just to take note of that, and we'll be talking about it. Our approach involved designing questionnaires, which included key informant guides, checklists for both qualitative and qualitative data, quantitative and qualitative, and standard tools for the SEBA. We had to go through a pilot testing of the tools and methodology. We had to collect, process, and analyze the data. We prepared the draft and the final reports, and this is part of what we're supposed to do to disseminate the findings. At the time of assignment, in November, we were given a timeline of 3 months. Some of this was done, but others, as you will note, could not fit within the time frame of the 3 months. Key deliverables, next slide, was an inception report, data collection tools, baseline survey report, draft, and final, a presentation, and some policy briefs. Next slide. In terms of objectives, 2 main objectives. First, to establish the status, coverage, and quality of primary level school feeding interventions. And the second was to provide evidence-based recommendations that would inform school feeding policy and implementation, as well as program development. More specifically, we are to determine effective coverage, diversity and nutritional content, the primary providers of school meals, assessing how food for school meals was procured and sourced, assessing existing management structures, and then mapping out the status of policy and regulatory framework using the SEBA tool. As I had already hinted, we did a detailed review of the literature. We used a convergent parallel mixed method that included a quantitative survey that produced generalizable statistics. We did a qualitative assessment that explored the contextual factors, policy implementation readiness, and stakeholder perspectives. We also did the systems level benchmarking, that is that systems approach to better education results for school feeding. That one specifically looked at the institutional, policy, and programmatic capacity at the national level. Sample size computation was derived from the school feed survey training manual, but also with UBOS technical input, we added on the World Bank approach. In terms of the study population, primarily, as I have already stated, it was primary schools, urban, rural setting, mixed boarding and day schools, the government-aided and private schools. We also interact with the key stakeholders, including the development partners, implementing partners, both at the national level and the district level. We interviewed primary school pupils. We focused on the 5 and 6 as the upper primary, and 3 and 4 as the lower primary. I need to point out at this time that because this thing was done around November, that's when we did the data collection, the primary 7 had already left after the exams, so they were not in school, and that justifies the use of only primary 5 and 6. But we're also concerned about the reliability of the pupils in P1 and 2, the type of information that would collect. So we tended to focus right from the beginning on 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 were excluded. We made sure there was a balance between the male and female learners, and they specifically added those living with disability. We talked to the teaching and non-teaching staff members, and finally, we also interacted with the parents, guardians, and community members. Final sampling, we divided the country into 15 regions based on the Uganda Bureau of Statistics stratification. And from each region, we picked 3 districts or city divisions randomly. And on top of those we had 5 purposively selected districts, giving a total of 50. From each of the randomly selected districts, we picked 18 schools, while from the purposively selected districts, we picked 10 schools. That gave us a total of 860 schools to be put into the sample. From each school, we picked 12 pupils, and 2 of those 12 was a child living with disability. From each school, we picked 2 staff members, 1 teaching and 1 non-teaching staff. And finally, we had 4 districts for qualitative study. That was purposively selected. Amudat to represent a district that had a fully fledged program being supported by a development partner. Gulu to be giving us the perspective of a district that had parent-led interventions. Kabarole had partners who were supporting a school feeding program in that area. And then Kalangala was a disadvantaged district that did not have a school feeding program. Next slide, please. That is the final. The 860 was targeted. We reached 98% of those, that is 846. And out of the 10,320 learners, we managed to reach 97%, and that is the actual breakdown by the sub-regions. Next slide, please. A few limitations that I would want to highlight. We did not look at government schools as an entity, but looked at more of the public schools, that's the government aided. So there is no data that specifically separates out the government schools. Then the baseline survey focused on the primary level education. Though we are all aware, we would have been also interested in understanding what happens at the secondary level in terms of school feeding. We did not cover the details of the nutrition-related factors, and as I've already stated, the P7 were not in school at that time. Next slide, please. Now we go into the survey findings. Next slide. So the first area that we looked at is what are the options for school feeding in the country? And the baseline survey revealed that just less than half, that is 46% of the primary school children ate meals that were prepared at school. And here I'm talking of primary school children. When we look at those who were not eating the schools prepared, rather the food prepared at school, we note that 14% had packed food at home and brought it to school so that it could be the meal that they would have. 7% went back home so that they would have meals at lunchtime. 3% purchased food from the school canteen or snacks from the school canteen, while 30% did not eat any meals while they were at school. This is what the children told us. Next slide, please. Now, looking a bit more in detail at those who ate meals prepared at school, we said 46% of the children ate the meals, but there was disparity on geographical basis. Higher proportion of learners, for example, in Karamoja, almost all, 98% of the learners had meals prepared at school. Kampala followed with 92%, and Buganda North had 86%. But when we look at West Nile, 17% of the learners, Ankole, 18%, Toro, 20%, Acholi, 21%, and Lango, 22%. And that map highlights this in some sort of pictorial form. The green corresponds to those who more than 80% of the learners had meals at school. Blue, between 61 to 80% of the learners, and there was only one region. Yellow, 31 to 60%, while less than 30% is in red. So that gives you an insight into proportion of learners who had meals prepared at school. Next slide, please. Now, when we look at the packing of food from home, we said that 14% of the learners packed their meals from home and brought it to school for lunch. This practice was highest in Ankole with 53%, Toro 45%, Bunyoro 31%, Kigezi 29%, and Buganda South with 22%. But when you go to Karamoja and Elgon, this was not registered. None of the learners reported carrying any food from home. Acholi, Buganda North, Busoga, and West Nile were all below 1%. So this starts giving you an insight into some of those regions where children who are not receiving hot meals at school were at least being supplemented by what they are packing from home. How about going back home for lunch? 7% of learners went back home for meals at lunchtime. This practice was again highest in Kigezi with 33%, Bukedi and Ankole with 25% each. West Nile had only 15%, and Toro had 13%. Again, Karamoja and Elgon was non-existent. Acholi had less than 1%, while Buganda North and Kampala only about 1% each for going back home for lunch. How about the 30% of children who did not eat at school? I would like to point out that when we specifically considered the UPE schools, the proportion was much higher. 63% of children did not actually eat while at school. Having said that, on geographical basis, the highest proportion who did not eat at school was actually Nacholi with 77%, Elgon 76%, Lango 64%, and West Nile with 61%. The lowest proportion, again, was in Karamoja with 2%, Kampala and Ankole with 4% each, Kigezi 5%, and Buganda South with 8%. I would like to point out that the difference between the very first slide that I prepared, that the first area we showed the proportion that did not eat food prepared at school, and this one is the middle interventions that we looked at. Those who went back to school, went back home, and then those who packed food from home. So what type of food was served at school? Predominantly maize or posho in virtually all the primary schools. Beans, 85% of the schools. But when we go into vegetables, only 37% included vegetables. 31% of the schools in the country served rice, and only 13% served meat or fish. Next slide, please. Trying to get an insight into the nutritional component in terms of food groups. If you have 5 or more food groups, at least that is likely to be more balanced. Less than 5 food groups is less likely. So 28% of schools served 5 or more food groups to learners, and this was more common in Kampala schools, West Nile schools, and Busoga schools. But less common or least common in Elgon with 6% of the schools, Karamoja, 7% of the schools, and Bunyoro with 11% of the schools. This is trying to look at the different food groups that were served to these learners. The other thing that was asked was, who are the primary providers of funds in relation to school meals? For virtually all the schools, 96%, parents were the main providers. When we look at schools in Kampala, Lango, Tesa, and Toro, they were basically the sole providers of funds for school meals. Karamoja, 89% of the schools got funds from the development partners and NGOs. Then partners were relatively active in Acholi, in 17% of the schools, Kigezi, 8%, then Bukedi and Elgon with at least 7% of the schools each. So that gives you some sort of insight into funding or providing funds to support school meals. Next slide, please. How about sources of school food? Private businesses were prominent, 86% of the schools. So I had and type is 91% of the schools. Smallholder farmers, some small-scale farmers, 20%. And then medium and large-scale farmers, only 3%. Farm organizations, almost not there. When we look at geographical distribution, small-scale farmers were more active comparatively in West Nile, Kigezi, Acholi, and Busoga, but was very low in Elgon, not surprisingly in Kampala because of its urban nature, and then Karamoja. This we should look at from the perspective of the opportunity that it creates, something that has not been tapped and could be explored for purposes of improving school feeding. How about water? Since water is the main and very important component in terms of school feeding, just about 1/3 of the schools had access to piped water. Another 1/3 had access to borehole water. 14% had provisions for harvesting rainwater. 7% obtained water from improved sources, and 7% obtained from unimproved sources. But 7% had no nearby water source. So that is the sort of picture that we captured. I would like to apologize, we may not have had a lot of detail in this, but was trying to gain an insight about availability and sources of water that could be easily accessed by the school. Now, when we look at the unimproved and no water sources, from the 7% who got from unimproved sources, this was relatively more common in Kigezi, Ankole, and Buganda South with those proportions of schools. Lack of water was more prevalent in schools from Bukedi, Bunyoro, and Toro, with a range from about 13% to 22%. Next slide, please. We also asked about toilet facilities because of the issues of sanitation. And we noted, or we found out that 77% of the school had toilet facilities for the learners. When we look at Acholi, Buganda South, Bunyoro, Karamoja, and West Nile, all the schools reported availability of toilet facilities. And those with comparatively higher proportions were in Busoga and Elgon regions. However, challenges were in Toro, Kigezi, Lango, Buganda North, and Bukedi, where the gaps were quite significant. Then we also try to explore the availability of an indoor school kitchen, because it turned out that some schools actually were cooking right out in the open. Some had such temporary shelters that you wouldn't really classify it as a kitchen or an indoor kitchen. So about 72% of schools had indoor kitchens, and this was common, or relatively more common, in Kampala, Ankole, Kigezi, and Lango. But challenges or gaps were a bit more significant in Toro, Buganda North, and Bunyoro. Now that is just availability of the indoor kitchens. Without basing on the standards from the education sector, just using good old common sense and trying to say this is a good condition kitchen, we found that 44% of schools had good kitchens. And it was more common in Kampala, Buganda North, and Karamoja. But this was relatively less common in Kigezi, Ankole, Bukedi, and Busoga. Then we also tried to find out about the ability, or whether the schools were able to prepare and serve the meals to the learners. 8 out of 10 schools were able to prepare meals and serve to learners. And this capacity was more prevalent in Kampala, Karamoja, Buganda South, Buganda North, and Busoga. But challenges were in West Nile, Toro, Ankole, and Teso. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Excuse me. When we tried to ask about all learners being given meals, just about half of the schools reported that they provided a hot meal to all their learners. And this was more likely or more common in Karamoja, where 98% of the schools said they provided meals to all their learners. And higher proportions were in Buganda North, Kampala, Buganda South, and Elgon. But this was much lower in Ankole, Busoga, Kigezi, and Bukedi. And the main reason cited was actually that the learners had not paid for meals. So this brought about an aspect where certain classes or certain groups or certain categories were being prioritized, but not every learner. Next slide, please. Trying to look at the aspects of management, we asked about school feeding committee, and just about 38% of the schools reported the existence of school feeding committees. This was more common again in Karamoja, Teso schools, Busoga schools, and Acholi. Lower proportion of schools with committees in Buganda South, Kampala, Ankole, and Lango. The other aspect of management we looked at is whether the school for the year 2025 had a school budget for meals, and overall, only about 21% of the schools reported having a budget during the year 2025. This was more common, or relatively more common, in Kampala schools, Teso schools, and Elgon, but quite low in Acholi schools, Bunyoro, and Karamoja. So we turn a bit to the health SABA. Next slide, please. Like I said, it refers to the systems approach for better education results. It's a diagnostic tool that is designed to systematically collect and analyze information on school health and nutrition policies and programs, and helps to identify actionable priorities that can be used to strengthen school health and nutrition services. There are three core modules, or there are three modules. There's a core module that is used primarily to assess the school health and nutrition policy intent, governance, and finance. Then there is a module on essential school health services, which focuses on implementation of school-based health service delivery. And finally, there's the school meals module, which is what we used, that is designed to assess the policy, financing, institutional capacities, aspects of multi-sectoral coordination, monitoring, and community engagement in relation to school feeding. This gives an oversight of the health SABA format, where we have policy goals, and there are 5 of them. One in the area of policy and regulatory framework, financial capacity, institutional capacity and coordination, design and implementation, then community roles, which also refers to reaching beyond schools. And these goals are basically primary outcomes that the policy aim to achieve. It's encapsulated in the overarching vision of the policy and sets direction for strategic planning and action. For each policy goal, there are indicators that are specific, observable, measurable characteristics and are used to assess the performance of the policy and determine whether the goals have been met. And for each of those indicators, there are sub-indicators that are more details with parameters that can be quantified and critical in evaluating finer points of the policy performance. This gives an oversight in terms of the policy goals on the left, and then the main indicators for each of those policies. I will not dwell on that because that's just to give you an insight. So what were the objectives of the SABA components? One was to update the findings of the previous exercise that had been carried, identify achievements to date and existing capacities, as well as prevailing weaknesses and gaps. The second was to engage additional actors, including those who are relevant but not normally concerned in provision of school meals. And finally, to establish a solid basis of evidence on which capacity strengthening strategy could be built. Next slide, please. So in terms of the process, we conducted literature review, key informant interviews, to compile all the relevant information on the school meals policies, systems, and program. These were referenced in the report. Conducted technical meeting to compile and validate the data. We had a 2-day workshop for 38 participants, mainly stakeholders, in December. We validated the questions and developed a roadmap and action plan to identify the gaps. The data management process, next slide please. 5 working groups were constituted, each with sets of questions for the specific policy goal. The group discussed, clarified outstanding questions, and gave information that fed into the action plan. The participants used the framework rubrics to determine the stage of development for each indicator, and there are 4 options that I'll be highlighting. And then the findings were presented in plenary for validation and consensus on all the outcomes. The scoring rubrics, the scoring is on 4 levels to benchmark the status of the policy, ranging from latent, where there's no or very little policy development. In terms of performance, this is less than 25% of what should have been achieved. Then the second level is emerging, where some initial or some initiatives towards policy development are in place. And in terms of performance, between 26 and 50%. Third level is established, where there is some policy development. And in terms of performance, we are now ranging from 51% to 75%. And then advanced, where there is a comprehensive policy framework. And in terms of performance, you are more than 75%. So how did we feature? In terms of national capacity on school feeding, for Policy Goal 1 on policy and regulatory framework, we scored at emerging. So that means we're not above 50%. Policy Goal number 2, financial capacity, we also scored at emerging. Institutional capacity and coordination, we're at emerging. Program design and implementation, we're at emerging. And finally, community roles, we are at emerging. So what are the recommendations out of these findings? One is to look at coverage and equity, where we need to make sure there's expansion, targeting interventions to increase the coverage in underserved regions. Improve dietary diversity, and here the recommendation is to look at more vegetables, fruits, and animal source foods, especially starting with those schools with very low diversity. 3, strengthening funding and procurement. We are looking at diversifying funding sources, linking to the PDM, which the Honorable has already been talking about, strengthening local procurement, and including structured engagement with smallholder farmers. 4th, enhancement of management capacity, making sure we establish school feeding committees in schools, improve record keeping, and provide regular training for the staff. Next slide, please. 5th area is strengthening policy and monitoring environment, where we propose to develop and disseminate guiding documents, ensure routine data collection, integrate school feeding indicators into the education management information system so that there can be sustainable monitoring. 6th area is review and regulating the school account system so that we can be able to facilitate cash contributions from parents and partners. And finally, certain areas that are being proposed for further research so that we can look better at the nutritional issues, impact of school feeding, willingness of parents to participate, and of course, the area of secondary level research. In terms of the SEBA, first recommendation is to revise and update the relevant sections of the National Feeding Policy, the draft, and finalizing its development. 2, establish stable funding and budgeting with link to the PDM. 3, establish National School Feeding Program Coordination Unit and reactivate the multi-sector working group. 4, develop targeted National School Feeding Program design with a costed strategic plan. And finally, develop and implement a comprehensive school health and nutrition community engagement package. Permit me at this stage to acknowledge the Ministry of Education and Sports, because without the opportunity they gave us, we would not have been able to do this work. We single out the development and implementing partners, specifically for the purposes of this study, the World Food Programme and World Vision, again, for their invaluable input into this process. We acknowledge the local governments, the district and city local governments, school administrations, the community leaders, parents and learners who took time to participate in this activity. And finally, last not by least, the survey team that went about making sure that this was done. I thank you.
Can we have another round of applause for Dr. Saul? This leads us to the next part of the discussion. And I'm going to request all the previous presenters. I've been requested that you come up front that you come up front. I would like to call our Head of Directorate of Education Standards and School Feeding, Dr. Francis Atima. I would like to call Marcus Prayer, Country Director, World Food Program. Our Programs Director, World Vision. Honorable Margaret Rabushaija, please. I think we'll need a fifth chair. Do we have the hotel team? Because we are also going to invite our consultant, Dr. Saul Onyango. But just a moment, we just need another chair around here for his sets. Thank you. Thank you. And we've been sitting for so long, so maybe if we can have someone to give us an icebreaker as I invite the moderator for this discussion, Dr. Julius Mukunda, the Executive Director of Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, which we all know as CSBAG. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you all stand up for a second, please? These days, And just you raise your hand up in the sky, twist your fingers, the second arm. Oh yeah, you can now sit down. Only that, Yes, I think our time is around almost 11:30. So, how long are we here? Do we have supper? No, I don't think we have supper. It's at lunchtime. Thank you so much for the consultant, Saul. I think this was quite some good statistic. We humbly received it. Before I think I begin, my job is really very simple. It's really to get your feedback, to get your reactions, to get your feeling on what you think about what the baseline brought in. But before we start, I just want first to go on our panel just for a minute or two. What is your reaction about these numbers, about the picture? And I think I will start with Marcus at the end.
You really put me on the spot.
Yes.
I think from the World Food Program perspective, much has been done, but the opportunity to do so much more is there.
Yes.
And a very strong sense that we are reaching the crest of a wave where we can pool all our resources. WFP is ready to support the government as we move forward with the approval of the school feeding policy.
Yes.
Because I think with the policy, we have that vision for what Uganda wants to do in terms of school feeding as a country. Then we need to look at the financing piece.
Yes.
That, of course, starts with government, but there are other partners, the private sector, the parents themselves, the development partners, the donors. And then I think it's important that we look at a pilot which can allow us to work together to understand how we can really do this, but also how we can scale it.
Yes.
We have a very good example in Karamoja in the work that's been done over many years now, with really, really strong leadership from the government in the Karamoja Feeds Karamoja initiative, where we have this homegrown school feeding model, which we see as a no-brainer because everybody wins. The students win because they get a meal in school every day, if not two. Parents and communities win because there are spin-off effects of the education in school and the good nutrition practices that are learned through this approach. The private sector and the farmers, the local farmers in particular, win because they have a steady market for their produce and a good price. And the government and the country wins because they have a well-nourished, well-educated young population who are ready to be net value add to the economy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Director of Education, what's your take?
Thank you so much. My take is, one, it's clear that the feeding of children in this country is uneven.
Oh, yes.
There are those that have it, and there are those that don't have it. But even within the school, there are those that feed, and there are those who don't feed.
It really shocked me.
Yeah, so
they line up, eh? Those who have paid, please go and eat. Those who have not, please find something else. Eh?
Yeah, so it boils down to, if we want to have quality education, then nutrition and feeding is very key.
Very key.
But it also comes out that the initiatives can actually work. And you may not have one size fit intervention. We need to look at all the interventions which are there, which works where and which doesn't work. So you may not have one kind of a blanket intervention to say this is how we want to feed our children. So it is important that the statistics are out, and now it will help us to refocus. But also a lot of dissemination, a lot of awareness needs to be brought on board, because there are parents that can be able to feed their children but probably do not know how important it is and what they can do.
And what they can do, yes.
As earlier when I made my presentation, I said it's a paradox. We have food in this country, so why should children go hungry?
Yes.
It also comes out clearly that very few, in terms of balancing, fewer schools feed children on vegetables. and yet you can actually grow these vegetables. So there's still a lot to be done, but I'm thankful that there's also quite that has been done.
Okay.
And so it is a call to action that it needs a holistic approach. It needs all of us to be able to feed our children.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Honorable, do we still need a school feeding program, really?
Thank you so much. To me, if the child does not have food, they will not be at school.
The microphone. Yes.
Yeah, the challenge that we have is that we have not supported. For example, we are talking about Karamoja. They have been getting money or food, and the supply has not ended. But also, you find that even it's now about 30 years, but there was not there. We have not tried to say this is the way to go, just in case those people are not there. I've seen at times when I'm moving, and I get concerned when I see children around lunchtime, and they are on football in the road. They are playing, and nobody is concerned about them. There is where we went, and the children at around 9, they were also on football and netball. And we asked them why they didn't go to school. They said their parents do not have some money to give the head teacher. So it is still a challenge, but slowly and steadily we should change.
Yes.
Otherwise, if everything is given free, people will not change.
Yes. Thank you so much. I mean, I think for me, it's around the development outcomes. A healthy child who is well fed, the education outcomes can be better. And the skills required, because World Bank was giving us a very good, a very, very, very troubling statistics about our effectiveness as a country. So, and I think this could be one of the ways in which we can actually increase productivity. I think for me, the other part was around only 38% of schools had feeding committees. And I was asking myself, okay, then who decides what are they eating, when are they eating, how is it going to be bought? I think that was also another big issue. So what division do you think school feeding committees are critical in delivery of this? But also you're short about this data.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, it's on.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just a quick reflection of this is an appreciation that with the steps that the ministry and government have taken, we are registering near to half, that near to 50%, that is 49%. I think it's worth appreciation.
Yes.
Yeah, and then what comes to my mind is how we can strengthen coordination across the ministries and across partners to even achieve much more in terms of increasing the access to school feeding. I want to again emphasize the disparities.
Yes.
And what was shocking is some regions that actually producing a lot of food.
Chigezi, I'm in shock. Huh?
Yes. The schools are actually not feeding children. And for me, that points to, could be information gap, could be, what is that underlying root cause in some of these regions that their children are not getting food at school. And then one thing I was sharing with the colleague on the table, maybe in the next research that we will do, we want to compare the school feeding with the reading and learning outcomes.
Yeah, education outcomes, yes.
Yes. So we say if these schools have been feeding for probably 2, 3, 4 years, what are the learning outcomes? What are the health indicators speaking for children within this region? So what are the nutrition indicators saying about this region? That will be a very good research again to our team that do the research.
Okay.
Then on the question you asked about committees, it is important that they are called school management committees. And if you only have 39%, it means that the regulation, the quality control of what to feed the children, how the children are fed, is left to anyone. And if anything is left to anyone, it is not actually done in the right way. So I believe that strengthening school management committees, strengthening the feeding committees will go a long way, not only in enforcing the controls in terms of the quality and so on, but also think outside the box. How do we resource the school feeding program? For example, for Julia's school, how can we resource? So that committee will be tasked to think outside the box and be able to sustain that school feeding program.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I mean, me who is interested in budget work, only 21% of schools had a budget for meals, but 49% provided meals to all learners. I was wondering, where are these guys? If you don't have a budget, where are you getting the the money for feeding. So probably things just happen, and people find themselves eating. I think that's another note. But let me come to the audience. We have this baseline survey, very interesting statistics in terms of where we are, and I think for me this is very critical, and I must appreciate really that something is already being done. But to you as an audience, where do we take it from here? And I think from that is very critical and very, very, very important. You can have a comment, but also you can have a question to any of our panelists here to give a further thought on what could be done. I don't know how many of us have the microphone or the raised hands. Eric is reminding us we're in a classroom, so we can actually, raise the voice a bit. And let also be brief, because they're very good, I can say, good number of hands up. And let me start with the front table here with me. You are number 1, sir. You are number 2, number 3, and number 4. Minister of Health, I think. Okay. Yes. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Let's do that round first. Eric, yes. Please mention your name and where you come from, and we become and we are brief.
Yes, thanks for the wonderful presentation and all the presenters. I think very lovely information that we've been able to receive, especially regarding this kind of information.
Yes.
It's something that we've always been struggling with. My name is Julius Okela. I work for UNHCR. I'm the education lead, and I'm also the co-chair of the Education Emergency Working Group, which
okay.
is with the Ministry of Education. And for us, the survey findings directly speak to us and the realities that we face on a daily basis, especially when we deal with different partners that are working in the humanitarian space. I think for me, what would have been also interesting for us to see, and just to pick up what the country director of World Vision was highlighting on, first of all, the linkage between school feeding and attendance is very key, even before we start thinking of the outcomes. Because we know in various spaces, people have always tended to link the school attendance to school feeding. So that would have been very important for us to also to get more insight on. There was an issue related to some schools feeding, some schools not feeding. So what are the mechanisms that are in place in these schools? Is it voluntary enforcement or they have mandatory enforcement? I think it's very key.
Yeah.
Because we know that sometimes certain schools will become very strict and say, you must pay.
Yes.
And then people have no way out, rather they'll have to pay. Then the other thing that also comes into play that we have faced, especially in the humanitarian space, is that we know that there's a very clear government policy and guideline regarding collection of fees in schools.
Oh yes, UPE.
So even when you talk of a school management committee being very functional, sometimes their hands are tied because there's a very clear government directive in terms of schools collecting money from parents.
Yes.
They will tell you that there are locations where you'll go and the RDC has made it clear, if I find any committee collecting any kind of money, I'm going to arrest the head teacher.
Yeah.
So you don't expect a school management committee in this kind of locations to take any proactive steps towards enforcing issues related to the school feeding. So I think for now, maybe I can stick at that. Yeah, Julius.
Julius.
For UNHCR.
Yes, Julius from UNHCR. Thank you. Yes, policy coordination. I think that's something that is key. Yes, thank you.
Rita Cabanyero from Action Against Hunger. 2 questions. One is for you, the moderator. Yes, in line with your work on budget advocacy, what are your thoughts on this data and what you see with the budget allocation for education and agriculture? I know there's been an increase, but it's mostly towards salaries and all of that. And it doesn't look like government is ready to make significant investments for, things like this. We're expecting parents to do. But again, when you go to Karamoja, which comes to my second question, we're not seeing a lot of investments in climate resilient food security and livelihoods. so that we build self-reliance when it comes to this school feeding. With the current funding environment, if 98% of the children are being fed from funding from WFP and its partners and all of that, and Trump wakes up and says, you know, there's no more funding, what happens to these children? What happens to the outcomes we're seeing? You know, if 98% of them are being fed by development partners, I think we are creating a very big reliance problem. So we need to do a lot of investments on the other side so that parents are able to actually be weaned off this kind of support.
Thank you. Next, number 3 is behind you. Yeah, I mean, where shall we get food to give the children if we don't have at home? I think that's the whole idea.
Okay, thank you very much. Joyce Nakato is my name. I do work with Uganda Youth and Adolescent Health Forum, but I also represent Girls Not Brides, which is a national partnership to end child marriages. And when we talk about the feeding program, it's really something that most of our organizations work with, because we are mainly campaigning to make sure that we have children maintained in school, because we know when they have more time in school, then they are able not to get into early marriages. I have 3 concerns, but I'm only going to talk about 2 because my colleague Rita has already talked about sustainability. When I saw that most of the schools are able to eat food because they are getting funding from development partners, it was somehow alarming because of the aspect of sustainability. So just more information about that. Then also Saul talked about the capacity of some schools to prepare food. I just wanted to learn, because I know this was a learning session, what were you basing on to measure the capacity of the school to be able to provide the food? I just wanted the measurements. Then I also wanted to find out, pardon me in case I missed it, I know basing on the methodology that was used, we saw it was both qualitative and quantitative, because I realized there were some key informants that were interviewed. I was expecting in the study or in the presentation to hear some voices, maybe of some of the children, just like some of the videos that we watched at the start. But otherwise, well done. This was really, really, really
Thank you so much. Yes. Yes, Minister of Health.
Thank you so much. I want to thank the consultant for the work well done. Basically, he talked about part of the inclusion was the children with disability. But when he was making an analysis, we didn't see why was he more interested in the children with disability and what was the areas. Because we know access to food is a big problem.
Yes.
Then the last one is about the regional distribution of the impact of food. We know we look at the outcome of nutrition. And we always say Karamoja has a lot of stunted children and others are, they are small and whatever, but we didn't see it coming out. And I was excited to see that Karamoja was even above Kampala in giving hot food to these children. What trick do they have which brings out that? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I'm in charge, sir. You're just placing it there. Yes, you didn't introduce yourself, sir, for Minister of Health. Yes, you can.
Dr. Mwanga Moses, I'm a commissioner at Ministry of Health in Community Health.
Yeah, thanks, Mwanga. So I don't see so many questions. Can I have another round? Yes, let me have another round. But can we be quick? Yes, just hold on. You are number 1. I agree now. Yes, let's say number 2, my friend there. You are a moderator, you will come later. Number 2, number 3, and number 4. Yes. Yeah, you are the first.
Good. I'm Dr. Mangeni, George Otebero, the City Production Officer of Mbale City.
Okay.
My first question goes to the representative of the Permanent Secretary. You told us a long journey, how far you've gone from around 2000 something up to the present in terms of transitioning in the school feeding program. I want to find out from you, where do you find us in the next 5 years?
Yes, that's a good one.
Because the journey, you seem to take very short steps and you're not covering a long distance, long enough to to take us somewhere.
Thank
then
you.
Two, I'm just surprised about the results of Bugisu sub-region. You know, they appear a food basket in that region. And I'm wondering, why should they lag behind in terms of feeding the children? Could we know research can't answer it all, but could we also go an extra mile and find out from parents what is really happening with them? Thank you.
I think that's good, yes. Who is number 2 is behind you? Yes. Let's be a bit quick and
thank
short
you.
the point. Yes.
My name is Irene Kagoya, and I'm the Associate Director Advocacy with World Vision Uganda.
Yes, Irene.
I have 3 short questions. One is for Dr. Sol. I'm just wondering whether, in terms of the research, we're able to also find out elements around food storage and handling. Because, again, that links greatly to the health of the learners. The second one is about the strong recommendations that were drawn out of the Sabar exercise. I think those were really strong recommendations, and my question goes to our guest of honor around the opportunity that lies in following through with the implementation of some of these recommendations, just to establish what is the Ministry of Education planning around the implementation of some of these recommendations that I think could give us a leap into enhancing school feeding. Last but not least is again for Dr. Sol around the element of multi-sectoral coordination. We know that this is a multi-sectoral issue, but I wanted to establish at a national level, national and district level, was there any information that was coming through in terms of how the coordination is happening between Ministry of Health, Education, MAIF, just to help us appreciate that.
And local governments.
And local governments, thank you.
Thank you. A lady and a gentleman behind you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I would like to thank the presenter because I think he was thorough, according to me. He was thorough, he was on point.
Thank you.
I'm called Tuabaze Julia Billiet. I'm a focal point officer for food and nutrition in the Ministry of Water and Environment.
Good.
Now, I saw the pictures which were there before presenting, and then in his presentation, it is food. Mainly we're talking about food.
Yes.
But the jerry cans were dirty. So if the jerry cans are dirty, which holistic approach are we going to use to ensure that we also tell these people that, as you see, water is life. And the safe water is the best. So I saw them giving children food, fine, but they were not giving them a bottle of water. And yet we believe that water is the most nutritious in your diet, but the most ignored. Why do we keep ignoring water? Also, when you finish eating, you go to the toilet. In most of these schools, we also don't have toilets. We are mainly using pit. We are not using lined. But where we are using actually waterborne, also the price is high. You cannot sustain a waterborne toilet in a school. First of all, it will break because of children. We have done some of them somewhere. We cannot sustain. So which policy are we going to have that will say, let us use lined pit, but also for children and teachers? Because that is where we have done it, and the teachers have hijacked it because it is new and it is good. So, and yet the purpose is for?
Yes.
For the children.
Yeah.
So now that the ministry is constructing fecal sludge management sites, we have a department in charge of that. So if we are doing fecal sludge management and we are providing also cesspool emptiers, which policy are we going to have, which will say, yes, you have a school, whether government, whether private, but these are the key areas. You need, first of all, to have a toilet which is lined, design it in such a way that there is girls where they do their menstruation and what? And then there is for teachers and for children.
Yes, thank you.
That's one. Two, we are talking of having a dietary. But these foods are expensive. You go to Nakasero and buy a watermelon. How can we pattern, how can these organizations help us so that we insist that in every school, at least we plant some mangoes?
Yeah,
We
school
can have
gardens.
a drive. We can have a drive
You're right.
where we have agro-forestry, not really forestry, but it's something agro. We have these fruits, yes. Some schools have vegetables, because a vegetable, you can even plant it in a tin. And you have vegetables in a tin, cabbages, what, in the schools we have been seeing. But how do we now go ahead and now think of having these fruit trees in our schools so that at lunchtime, even this child who doesn't have food, at least can be busy on a mango. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think there was an issue of WASH which came out very prominently, which definitely which needs to come out. But also, I think, Eric, the issue of multi-sector coordination is key. I can see it coming out very strongly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is David Katwere Semwanga. I am the program manager at Water for People. Water for People is an international non-government organization in the space of water, sanitation, and hygiene. I also worked briefly at the Ministry of Water and Environment for about 6 years. My question goes to the representative of the PS. In 1976, I was in primary one. Yes, 1976. And for 4 years, between 1976 and 1979, in the primary school where I was, fortunately it's here in Kampala, we were given milk by the government as part of school fees. It was very, very interesting. We looked forward for the Tuesday and Thursday when we were receiving that milk. 2 days a week. The representative of the PS, here we are in 2026. Is there any hope that that kind of arrangement can come back? Is it possible to have children get a pint? They used to be called pints of milk. I think it was a half liter or a quarter liter, whatever it was. Is there a possibility that that can happen again?
Yeah.
We are looking forward to that. My second one, my neighbor here talked about it slightly, but I just want to highlight it further. The Ministry of Water and Environment has a policy of providing at least one water source for every village. The times when I worked with the Ministry of Water and Environment, I saw that there are some schools, especially the area where I worked, the eastern part of the country, the Busoga, Bukedi. There were children who used to line up during their lunch break at a borehole to take water, and that was their lunch. In my opinion, that was sad, but at least they had something to put in their tiny stomachs. Is there a policy in the ministry that makes it mandatory for every school to have a safe water source? If it is not, is it not time that we
think
thought
about
that?
Thank
you
you
so much.
Thank you so much. Let me come back here to the panel. I know, sorry, you have so many questions. Can we start with you? But you might not answer all of them, really, because some of them could be beyond what you're supposed to do. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much. I think the first question was about the studies that need to be done. That has been taken, I'm sure, by the sector. linking school feeding to attendance. And then the other question was around whether the issue of school feeding enforcement. You gave the two options. Definitely it is voluntary enforcement. There's no mandatory enforcement of school feeding. And maybe that's why it's not universally available. Because the policy, I think, gave the responsibility to parents, and then this has been interpreted in different ways. When we had the validation meeting, the PS advised that as parents, we should be looking at that as a privilege to be able to make sure our children are fed. When I go to the village, it's like it's an opportunity to escape from that responsibility. And it has not helped that some of our political leaders are taking that position. So they are saying no contributions in terms of feeding or any other additional expenses from parents. So parents ride on that, and maybe in Bugisu you said it, that could be one of the problems. Misunderstanding of what should be the roles of parents. And maybe at this point we should be looking at the dissemination which was mentioned beyond just this group, making sure that our leaders, especially the political leaders, administrative leaders, and the religious leaders, get on board with this information and help the communities actually implement something that's going to improve school feeding. There was a question around guidance on the collection of money from, guidelines on collection of money from parents. I think that is also taken up by the sector. The capacity of schools to prepare food. This was merely going in to ask, do you have the utensils? Is there any collection of money? Do you actually prepare food? Is it prepared daily? Do you serve all the children? Who doesn't get served? Menu issues, who decides on the menu? I think something like that came out. Basically, in some schools was the head teacher or the director of a private school. Or maybe if there is somebody in charge of school meals, they may be the ones deciding. Key issue is resources. How much is it going to cost rather than is it a balanced diet? We are not at that level. We are not trying to ensure that there's a balanced diet. We are trying to make sure that there's at least something for the children to eat. And that could also explain why we scored so poorly in food groups. So the other issue is voices of the participants. I think that one couldn't come in this presentation. I apologize. It should have been there, but somehow it was an oversight. Children with disability, the key issue was to make sure that their voice was heard. Remember, we went in to find out who eats, who doesn't eat. So in that sub-analysis, you should be able to see how the children with disability fared. But what we seem to find across the board is that there was a deliberate affirmative action where it could apply. But as you know, the important consideration was not your disability, but more of did your parent pay? So if the parent has not paid, I mean, that is a more important consideration than your status. Regional distribution and impact of school feeding. I think we did not go into the impact of school feeding. It was just trying to look at where is food being prepared, which schools, which regions. And Karamoja, you can understand there is a program supported by development partners and implementing partners, and that's why most schools are able to provide meals for this. Kampala, a good proportion of parents are willing to pay, and that's why schools are able to provide. But when you go to some of these regions, maybe because of, again, bad interpretation of the policy, parents think that it's not their responsibility, and they would rather leave their children to go hungry than put in money to help feed the children. Food storage and handling was included in the report, in the detailed report. I should just point out that a lot, or there's still room for improvement. Storage capacity is not one of the priorities, except of course in Karamoja where the partners have been able to prioritize it. But otherwise in most schools, even the head teacher's office and all the other available facilities are being used to store food. Quality, we don't need to go there. When it comes to the aspect of food handling, actually this I hand over to the PS because there's a gap. There is no policy document that would help us to even standardize. Okay. So that is the sort of situation. Multi-sectoral coordination, I think you can get that from the SABA report. There was a scoring. We are less than 50%. Coordination has a lot of room for improvement.
Okay.
Data jerrycans, I think that is that was something else. Diet, I think we have mentioned something.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for responding. Yes. Do you have any questions? Did they pose any questions to you?
No, I didn't get a question, but I just wanted to make a comment on the question around water, access to water at school. I think just as this is where we need strong multi-sectoral coordination. So the Ministry of Health should be asking, how does the Ministry of Health contribute to school feeding? How does the Ministry of Water and Environment contribute to ensuring that as the Ministry of Education is, fostering and emphasizing school feeding, the Ministry of Water and Environment should emphasize that every school should have a clean and safe water source.
Yeah, I think so.
That should really be the point of convergence and coordination across the ministries, across partners. Thank you.
Thank you. Even the Ministry of Energy, isn't it? Because I'm very sure if we talk about cooking, 90% are using firewood. Yes, more than 90%. Yeah, so we need to think of how we can also improve on that. Honorable, quickly, do you have any? Yes. Yeah, it's on.
Thank you so much. On the issue of management committees in schools.
Yes.
At least.
You need to be near the microphone.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the issue of management in schools, because those are board members also, if it's in secondary, it is important, if possible, and they ask Ministry of Health to give them also a member, because at times the food is put in the stores for years, and by the time they find out that there's full of weevils, or if not, it can cause bad health behaviors in the schools.
Okay.
That's what I can say.
Thank you. Direct. Hey. But they were all simple questions.
Thank you so much. I think I had a couple. And I would like to start by saying, in NDP, the emphasis of having human capital and having several ministries under that, water, health, I think,
and even gender
and others, is really to improve and strengthen multi-sectoral coordination. And when we have those multi-sectoral meetings, the expectations are water brings to the table, health brings to the table, education brings to the table. What is it that each of us can do to contribute towards human capital development? So I think NDP is clear. If there are things that are not going well, it is us.
Okay.
And we need to ask ourselves questions. Are we doing our best? We should not actually be asking questions here. But what have we done? What I know that under UGIFT, there was that multi-sectoral coordination. The ministry constructs Minister of Works, the roads to the school, Minister of Water, ensure there is water.
Yes.
I think
That's a
what,
good one.
Yes,
That's
that's
one.
what it is.
Yes.
If it's not done, then that is still an implementation issue.
Yes.
And as we speak now, Ministry of Energy is spearheading a pilot on clean cooking.
Oh, yes.
And today, I was meant to be in that meeting. They are disseminating a report from the consultant on the school, on clean cooking energy. So there are already some pilots, I think about 106 or so schools, both private and government, where the Ministry of Energy is piloting.
Yes.
So there are efforts towards that. The basic requirements and minimum standards, which we have recently reviewed, have a whole indicator on food safety and security.
Yes.
It talks about food handling, it talks about safe water. Whatever we have said here is actually there. Storage is also part of that. And we also, in the standards, we are saying every school, every child should have a hot meal. For us, we've set the standards. How the hot meal will be given is another issue, but in terms of standards, we are saying every child should at least have a hot meal. Now, so it takes us back to the milk and all that, and I don't know how many you were that time. Now we are looking at a population of over 5 million children. So I think we need to look at what is it that can work in the prevailing situation. And then even when we go into fruits, this country can be mapped. I come from Teso, there are mangoes. That's a fruit. I don't need to go for a watermelon. There are oranges there. So it is mapping this country, but I think the issue of awareness is a very key issue. Maybe in your villages, adults don't drink. Because every day, these people are in bars drinking, and more than 5,000 shillings.
Yeah.
So it's not an issue of lack of money, but I think it's an issue of enforcement, ensuring that the parents are playing their role and children are feeding.
Yeah.
I think we need to do a lot better. So where do we want to see ourselves in the next
5 years? Yeah.
5 years? First of all, I think once the policy is concluded, the policy will give us a direction. But as I mentioned, at least we'd want to see that every child has a hot meal. I think that's what all of us would want to see, that our children are feeding. And we've all know and been informed that the return on investment on school feeding is higher. And now with the PDM, I think we need to be leveraging on some of those interventions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, yes, for your response. Amakas?
Thanks. It's going to be very brief, but I wanted to address the issue of sustainability in two ways. Firstly, I want to applaud the government because in our work together where WFP, we see ourselves not as so much as a doer, but much more an enabler and supporter. In Karamoja, since last year, the government has been contributing a very sizable amount of money, close to $150,000 a year, into the homegrown school feeding approach, through which we purchase food from local farmers. And this is a model for the future. This is how we can build sustainability as resources become available to school feeding programs. And then secondly, and our chief guest touched on this in terms of clean cooking. I was in Karamoja last week. And by the way, just as an aside, the situation is not looking good there this year at all, particularly in the north. The drought is biting. We have an El Nino on the way, and I think we need to be very aware of emerging needs in Karamoja. But resilience will be built in many ways and has been built through using schools as centers of excellence in agricultural production, in diversified diets. But I have seen this solar cooking at work, and it's incredibly impressive. And it is a real solution. We're working, again, with the local authorities, but through innovative partners in the private sector to bring solar cooking to several schools in Karamoja. I think, first of all, it is genuinely clean. If you've been in a school kitchen at all, they tend to be not the cleanest places, not because there's a lack of hygiene, but just because if you're burning wood, you're going to be dealing with you know, a lot of soot and ash and so on. And the cooks in particular, you know, have a tough time. These cooks in the school that I visited, they're walking around with smiles on their faces, but also because the cooking time is so much less. And they say they have, you know, time to do other things, to think of other recipes, to work on other things around the school. So this is an area, I think, given how much we can rely on the sun here in Uganda, that we can look to invest further in as we move forward, because it does bring, as I was saying, a much more sustainable approach to providing school meals. Thanks.
Thanks, Marcus. Okay, last round. I don't want the people at the back to think that you came late, we are punishing you. And therefore, let me start from the back. Yes, I can see a lady, yes. You are number one. Who's next? Somebody in the corner there, I can't see your face. You are number two. Do like this and I see, yep. Yes, number two. Then there's a gentleman here here, yes, you are number three. And then you are number four because you have the mic. Yes, and I can start with the number four. Yes. Your names, and let's be a bit quick and short because we are almost out of time.
Is it on? Okay. Thank you. Sarah, yes, guys, my spoken name and this is my sign name. I work as an assistant commissioner responsible for inclusive education and non-formal education. Ladies and gentlemen, school feeding is very critical for good health, for retention, for academic performance, name it all, for every child. But for children with disabilities, it is beyond that.
Yeah.
There are issues of accessibility. There are issues of compatibility. Therefore, this survey is very, very, very good for bringing out some of those issues. We have seen schools that are cooking, but children are not accessing that food for many reasons which I may not narrate now. And therefore, those voices are really very, very important to help us come out with the better planning because we know what is happening. Dr. Onyango, you'll bear me witness that there are children who may not survive on carbohydrates, especially. You cannot teach them autism, hyperactive disorder. They eat portion, they eat what? You can't teach them. They cannot settle. So those issues, we need them to come out.
Yeah.
And how do they access? If I don't have limbs and whatever, how am I accessing this food? Is it compatible and everything? Therefore, those issues, I think, in the report, they are there because they can support that. Secondly, we have talked about the children, but what about the teachers? Yes, there are schools that are feeding, and it's only the teachers who are eating, and the children are not eating. You find the children still standing on the windows, seeing these teachers when they are eating, and are we counting that school feeding for that school? And some of them are not even. Some children are feeding, and some teachers are also. Yes, we have seen it in Iterego, where some teachers contributed the 10,000 and others. So those issues can come out, those percentages. Lastly is about the refugees. Could we see what scenario is there? Because United Nations High Commission is here. We are having many schools in the settlements reducing or even stopping because World Food Program stopped. They are not eating. Could we see the scenario there so that we can plan better? The people who are working there, they may know This, how many schools are feeding? Compare the refugees and the nationals. Who
Okay.
are feeding, who are not feeding, and thank you very much for giving me the chance.
Thank you so much. Who was number two? Number three. Number three is somewhere in the corner there. Yeah, somewhere in the, yes, number three.
Yeah, thank you. Mine is brief. My name is Martin Oboya. I work with Plan International as the technical advisor for education. I only have two concerns. Maybe I missed because of sitting behind, or it has not been presented.
Eric.
The relationship between the cost of education factoring in the school feeding program and how the parents can take up these roles. Then the second one is the motivation, especially for Karamoja. We know Karamoja in the presentation, the Karamoja sub-region and the central Buganda, they are performing well. What's the motivation behind Karamoja doing well while looking at the roles and responsibility of parents in implementing the parent-led school feeding initiative? Thank you.
Thank you. Your colleague number two.
Okay, thank you. Agnes Kiraba is my name. I'm a foodie. I'm the Executive Director for Food Rights Alliance. Number one, I think we need to congratulate ourselves that for now we can sit under the leadership of Ministry of Education and discuss school meals. Please let us congratulate ourselves. It has been a very long way. It was obscene. It was not something that you could quickly think we can sit under one roof and we have a conversation over it. And I'm very hopeful. Honorable and Madam PS Director, for me, the first question is, when is this report going to be available to the public? Because we need to be treated to the detail. Doctor kept saying, oh, that one. I think it was in the bigger report. It is common in such meetings, even when it is not there. So when are we having this report for public consumption? And then to Madam PS and Honorable, this report has two revealing and worrying things. Number one, the UPE schools were the worst. And I think we need to focus there. The other worry is about Karamoja. That beauty, we might not live with it for long. I was in Karamoja the whole of last week, just as Marcus. Many of these development partners are parking. They are leaving. So what is going to happen in the event that we don't even have the courtesy to budget only 21%, prioritize and budget? Budget and then look for resources. The last thing, they did not announce on the program that we are going to have lunch, and I pray we don't. And I pray that every time we're having these conversations, we should not eat, such that we stop celebrating that at least now we have reached 50%. If we can't sit here, and we're even given mugs to pack some food and we go back with it home. So what am I saying? That we are doing so badly. These kids are young, and the faster we pull ourselves and feed all of them, the better. Finally, it is not about Maif. It's about the agro-industrialization program. How do we look at the school feeding as a catalyst for agro-industrialization? Otherwise, congratulations from looking at school feeding as the household level to now a whole of society, a multi-sectoral, but above all, a development and a transformative initiative.
Thanks so
you.
much. Agnes, yes? The first one. Eric.
Should I go next? I see the MC still.
Can I have another round? Yes, please. Please, go ahead.
Thank you so much. My name is Mary Nabisere. I work with UNICEF. I was one of the key informant people who were interviewed for this survey, and I remember clearly bringing out issues to do with nutrition. I don't know if they made it into the findings. And I've seen that in the limitations that Dr. Saul shared, he said that the survey did not cover nutrition-related factors. However, these nutrition-related factors are critical, very critical in determining nutrition outcomes, because I believe that for all our learners, they need beyond just food.
Okay.
They need balanced meals, but also the issue of the environments within which they learn. So I wanted to ask Dr. Saul, the 30% who did not eat food at school, we know that there are school canteens everywhere. We need to know what coverage that represents. But maybe these children are eating mandazi or 500 shillings. Were you able to get such information, you know? They could not be eating meals at school or take packed lunch, but they could be eating popcorn, gorillas, you know? So we need to find out what these children are actually eating. The other thing is on the, lastly, on the menus, the standardized menus. 28% were eating 5+ food groups. What were these children actually eating? Because we need to know and standardize the menus across the board. And I wonder why the issue of having a standardized menu did not make it into the recommendations, because this has come out critically most of the times. Thank you, and over.
Thank you so much. Yes, let's have just another 4, and then we finish. Yes, I think in the middle here you are. Let's have number 1. Let's have number 2, the gentleman. Madam, number 3. And now, yes, you have the microphone. Okay. Number 4. We can start with you. And let's be brief, to the point.
Yeah. Thank you very much. My name is Laura.
And then after that, we shall come to the panel. We have our last round. Yes.
My name is Laura Humuza, Turinawe, Minister of Health, Nutrition Division. Mine is related to Mary's. Dr. Saul, I don't know if the information on school menus is in the bigger report. Otherwise, I feel it's something that should have been highlighted, basing on the fact that the Ministry of Health is working on the national school feeding menus. So we would have a basis on which, you know, we can make reference.
Wow.
So
that's good information.
Saul, thank you very much.
Oh, good information. School menus, yeah? That's why we need the coordination. Coordination is very important. Number 3 was somewhere, but there is a reverend behind. If I don't do that, I might.
Yes. Thank you very much, MC.
Yes.
My name is Reverend Rukundo, and I come from Church of Uganda, and I think I'm the only foundation body representative here, if I haven't heard properly. Thank you very much for inviting us to be part of it. I work with children, and I work at the provincial office. I've fought so hard for having food in the schools. And I'm glad someone mentioned about the fights we have politicians. Honorable Yawashaija, I know that you're one of us. I want to ask that you will help us to tell politicians that sometimes it's important to think about food, because I know where my coordinators in the diocese are struggling with politicians.
Yes.
My concern in the report was about schools being able to produce some food. I was wondering why everybody else is talking about the food, and yet we're not, the sources of food, and yet we have very many of these schools which have land, they don't even have a vegetable there.
Yeah.
Not anything. So I was wondering why this report left out anything to do with what the schools can provide for themselves to be able to supplement or add something little. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Number 3 was this side, the Reverend, this side. It was this side, yes. Yes. Thanks.
Yes, thank you so much, moderator and the team. My name is Alinda Ruva. I work with the Office of the Prime Minister.
Oh, good.
As the principal officer there in the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit. Mine goes straight to the acting PS and director. Does Ministry of Education have streamlined guidelines about how the school feeding should be observed? Because when Dr. Onyango was presenting, actually he was my former boss in Ministry of Health, when he was presenting, he spoke about the different types of modalities. Children go home and eat, then others pack, then others get food from the school. So what is it? We need to have standardized guidelines for all the schools. What do you want? as the Minister of Education.
Yes.
So that we can streamline that. The second also goes out to the Madam Member of Parliament. I don't know whether, sorry I came in late, whether you're incoming or outgoing, but there is a lot.
Veteran.
Oh, she's a veteran. Okay, so what have you spoken about school feeding ever since you were in Parliament? Because we are seeing so many issues going on in Parliament, but school feeding is not coming out. So we need to understand what is it. You see the results coming out, they are very, very substantive, but we are not hearing any voice. You said you found some children playing football here and there, then what? What did you do with that?
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Then the third goes to Dr. Nyango himself. You talked about the funding to be linked to PDM. I didn't quite understand what you meant by that. Could you kindly clarify
okay.
on that? And multi-sectoral is supposed to be in the office of the Prime Minister. So if Minister of Education, you're doing it in isolation, please come back to us so that we can coordinate you as the office of the Prime Minister.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
That is good news. Yes. Number 2, please. Let us not skip exams. Number 2, yes.
Thank you very much, moderator. My name is Waluku John, State Inspector of Schools in Mbale State. At the same time, I'm the chairperson of Good Food at Council. First, I would like to thank this report. My question probably also comes to the expert. The person from East, I did not see Eastern prominently coming out in the respondents giving their view. I saw Lango, I saw West, so maybe you'll answer that. 2 is that Kampala, we see it doing very well at 98 point something of the learners eating food at school. We see the parking, the food to school, and also going back to school. We see to it that also Western is also doing well. And
Western is not doing well.
Okay. Just a question, please.
Yes, I'm bringing this so that you know how to handle the question. Eastern, we see that it's not doing, especially Ergon. It's also, we also look at the 33% who are not probably eating their food. So this one reflects also in the PLE performance. See that some parts in Uganda are not doing well in PLE, which reflects also the patterns of how they are feeding.
Yes.
I am asking that can we have, like Madam Des said, that can we map these particular areas and we have specific interventions? Because some are doing already well, but those particular ones that are not doing well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we can easily see, Kampala performing better in PLE. So we could want to see the correlation of food and PLE performance. Yes, number 1.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'm Barbara Balungi from GAIN, Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition. My question is around the food. He presented very well, and thank you so much for your presentation, where you said 99% is maize. So
maize and the portion.
Yes. So I wanted to know, is it whole grain or the white one? When I see the pictures, it was white, yes, because the whole grain provides different nutrition varieties, yes. So I want to know, is it the white one or the whole grain? If it's not, and it's cheaper, I would like that we take it up and put in more effort so that they can consume whole grain. The second one is about the secondary level. Why primary? Yet these are the girls that are growing up, they need nutrition. Even men, they need more nutrition. So why do we concentrate on only primary, not only even the secondary? Thank you.
Okay, I think that's a good point. Okay, we really need to wrap up. But Honorable, I know you might be having a question. Let me listen to our colleague this side, and then you'll be the last, because you play a very critical role. Can you take the microphone this side?
Thank you so much. Just 3 things. One, I am Rugambwa Justus. I coordinate the Joining Forces Coalition, 7 international NGOs dealing with child protection, and I sit at World Vision. One, are there some things that the research has found, either in the community, at school, or in homes, in schools that were performing well, and others not in the same location, some practices that can be highlighted?
Best practices, eh?
Yeah, school
Okay.
leadership or whatever it is, that
Yes.
is one. Two, some of the things that are coming up are things we regularly discuss with Ministry of Gender. Some of them are in national parenting standards, because it is parents that have to prepare food or something
Yes.
like that. Others are in the national social behavior change strategy, that communities have to change certain things. So I'm just emphasizing the need to coordinate with Ministry of Gender.
Yeah.
The third one is just thank you, because in the child protection community, we now have a map which we can juxtapose with teenage pregnancy, child marriage, HIV, teenage HIV seropositivity, and all the other impacts, and see child hunger as it relates to all those things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable, I will be the last. Can we have a mic, please, this side?
Yeah, thank you so much, the moderator. And I want to thank so much the presenter and all of the discussants to that effect. Members in this room, I represent Luuka in Busoga sub-region, and I'm also the chairman of Busoga Parliamentary Caucus in that region. I got so much concerned with the survey because we had good coverage of toilets and latrines in the region, but the feeding was at 17%. And now...
The feeding of the toilets, eh?
Either way. Now, I've also discovered there is a very strong relationship between poverty, food production, and school feeding.
Yeah.
A very strong relationship. And one person commented, and which is true, Uganda is a food basket.
Okay.
The challenge we have is that food production is not evenly distributed. Now, my question, I wanted to go to the representative of the permanent secretary, and I'm also a teacher. We have schools with the land, very big chunks of land. And when I was the World Food Program representative, I'm happy you made a comment that the government has injected in Karamoja some good dollars, and for you, your role is to buy food from those who are producing food. I wanted to know, do you have a deliberate policy as a World Food Program of increasing food production in the communities rather than waiting to buy? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes, let me come back to our panel, and I think as you respond some of the questions, and I will start with you, Marcus. You're also giving us your parting shot. But before that, there are some questions online. Kato Chikomeko says, areas with food basket, e.g. Toro and Ankole, have got high stunting rates. Should we focus on quality of meals taken? Mark Mutazinza, Food for Hungry Karamoja. Children in Karamoja pick rations of food in water bottles, in nomi tins, and calabash pieces. Zero parental contribution. Robinson Muzungu, strengthen linkages between farmers and schools. More research is registered, is required. Dr. Elias Oyesijembara, University Science and Technology. We conducted a study on food served in Uganda boarding schools. High levels of aflatoxins, contamination are very high. Exposure affects children's cognitive function and academic performance. Strengthen coordination mechanisms for evidence-based research through academia. And I think that's another issue that was raised here about the way we store food is quite very, very important. Marcus.
Thank you. And to answer, Honourable, your question, yes, we do work on the demand side when it comes to the farmers in Karamoja. The idea behind buying from the local farmers for the schools is that the schools themselves provide a very strong and consistent market across the region, and would do obviously across the country as well. So if we're linking farmers to the schools and there are resources for the schools to buy food locally, that creates a virtuous circle. And just to add that from the World Food Programme's perspective, wherever we are working, but especially here in Uganda, our first focus is to buy locally, as close to where food is needed as possible. Only if we can't find food locally would we look outside the country, regionally first, and then potentially internationally. So local purchase to stimulate local markets and to plow money back into the agricultural economy is absolutely front and center in everything that we do in this area. And a parting shot, I honestly don't think I've ever been in a gathering where so many hands have gone up so quickly to ask questions and participate in the discussion. And for me, that just demonstrates how we all have a stake in the provision of school meals to children, whether we're parents, whether we're part of a community, whether it's part of what we do for work. Everyone wins when we get school feeding right. And so the World Food Programme, there was a couple of suggestions that we might be cutting assistance completely in the refugee response, or partners are running out of Karamoja. Some of that might be true, but the World Food Programme isn't going anywhere. We are committed to remaining here in Uganda and supporting the government on bringing, for today's purposes, a hot meal every day to children here in Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, WFP, for the encouragement. Director, I think for me, Director, is let's look forward, isn't it? What should we do to do better?
Thank you so much. I would also like to appreciate that the purpose of this report was, one, to give information. Now we know what we need to do.
Yes.
We know areas that we require to focus on, and I think this is the purpose. And when I see the zeal that we have, I now realize that we can still work together and be able to come with the different interventions, contributions. They say every help counts. I would like to suggest that once the report has been shared out, you know, that I think after this you will share with the people who have attended, that we go back to our organizations, look at this report once again, and identify which areas do we think we can make a contribution.
Yes.
And I would propose that, I know our good friends are here. World Vision and others, and World Food Program, that we have another day where now we'll sit and say, out of this report, this is what we think we can do.
Yes, yeah.
And then once we do that, we document and submit to the permanent secretary. And then it goes to our ministers, we get political blessing. And to me, I think it's one way we can take this report forward.
Yeah.
On our side, we are going to submit, the permanent secretary is aware, as Eric mentioned earlier, that our senior management, where our top technical leadership sit, already had a go at this report. So they are aware, and now what we require to do is to ensure that our political leaders, because by that time we went into campaigns and all that, and we just go to the new ministers.
Oh, yeah.
So
Congratulations.
it is, thank you. So we are hoping that we're going to bring the political leaders on board as well. And then, of course, push the issue of the policy. Because
I think so.
without the policy, we will not have a good direction. But I want to think that even when we don't have a tangible policy, we have a draft policy, which still can give a direction, and we can still be doing something. You cannot stay back and say, until we have a policy, the children go hungry.
No way.
So that is really my parting remarks. And we are all aware that maybe not some of you, some years back, the First Lady herself went to campaign in the whole country, and the campaign was on school feeding. We also had, when there was also a dialogue, which we signed, including the ministry and partners, on school feeding.
Okay.
So I think the will is there, but we need to strengthen it, strengthen the coordination, and ensure that at the end of it all, we all achieve what we want to achieve, and that is to have a hot meal with the plate of the child.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I think, I mean, let's give them a clap really, because for me, is the interest and the interest in this is quite very important. Honorable, what are we taking from here?
Someone was asking whether I'm a teacher or not. Maybe he came late because I told you that I'm a teacher by profession and the founder of the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on quality, not just education only, but it must be of quality. And am I also treasurer of the forum? He's around and he has asked what he wanted to, but also is an expert, because I said he has about 5 schools, private. And after that, I can maybe talk about the report, because we have sent people for research, and I mentioned one of them is around. What we did is that with the report, I brought it, we came with it this morning, and I've given to World Vision a copy, World Food Program, and another one from the ministry. We have given the ministry, so you cannot say we have kept it, because it doesn't give us any help when you keep it in your bedroom. The last one is that I was asked to talk to politicians.
Yes.
We have many people who are on the forum. We have, for private, I can say that we have committees, but this one comes out because there are people who have the passion on what you are talking about.
Okay.
And so we have many of them.
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable. We rely on you in ensuring that the policy also comes out, and also on appropriation, because we will need money, whatever, at the end of the day, will come for public resources. Yes, parting shot.
Yes, just as you said what was coming first in my
Yes.
in my cutting short. One is to thank the ministry and the permanent secretary for making sure that this happens. That shows the technical and political will for us to have this policy out of our way. So my humble request is to reflect on the recommendation of this report and fast track the adoption of a number of those recommendations into the policy and have it actually presented, and Honorable Minister maybe jump into action now, should be now preparing the committees and so on, and say, there's a policy that is coming on this, can you review, and so on, so that, you know, we take short time to have this policy out and implementation starts. That will be helpful. Sometimes we rotate around, yes, go on one policy, and yet you can see the momentum that is in the house. Two is to appreciate the team here. I think just as you know that you've just struggled to put down the hands of members, and we want, on behalf of the team here, to appreciate each one of you, and again, on my own behalf, and on behalf of World Vision, request each one of us to take action.
Yes.
To take action in your individual corners as an organization or an agency. And Mother Teresa said, if you can't feed 100, then feed one.
Yes.
So there's somewhere we can start. And when we start, then we can be able to see everyone on board. So let's take action. Let's ensure our children have a meal.
Yes.
Not on the plate, but in their stomach.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, Saul.
Yes, thank you very much. Just a clarification on the issue of the canteens and snacks. 30% excludes those who have been relying or depending on snacks and canteen food. That one accounted for 3% over the, that is before you have got this 30% to have nothing. 3% have been relying on foods.
On snacks.
On snacks and school canteen outputs. Now, there was an issue around the menu. Yes, we talked about the menu in the report and the findings from the school menu. I mentioned something about who decides whether there's going to be a menu. And in most cases, there's no structured system. It is up to the head teacher or the person who is in charge of school meals or something like that. What is the key factor? It's nothing to do with diet. It's how much it's going to cost, because somehow money has always been the biggest constraint. So in that sort of situation, we felt that we couldn't put a recommendation on the menu in this report, because sounding out the critical stakeholders, they say, we'd rather have half a loaf on the plate before starting to think of, let's have a full what? Menu. So yes, the menu is reflected in the report, and we feel strongly that we need to deal with the menu, but in a situation where half of the children have nothing, it becomes difficult to start pushing for the menu, when even that half, you have been told the majority are getting less than at least the 5 food groups.
Okay.
So anyway, that was the thinking around the stakeholders, but subject to modification if people feel as they apply this report. So what are the observations for good performance? One, leadership. All those schools that had good leaders in terms of head teachers and that team were more likely to be feeding their children.
Yes.
Leadership in the school. 2, participation of the community.
Oh.
That makes the difference between Elgon, where none of the children reported carrying food to school, and Kigezi, where a good proportion of children were carrying food from the school. So there is an issue of parents. Some parents who just decided they are not giving kids anything. Then the others who are at least willing to and then maybe some of the other communities where they're contributing towards school being prepared, food being prepared at school. So there's a very big issue of parental participation. 3, community leaders, of course. Where the community leaders are going to be negative about participation of parents, the results were also not as good.
Yes.
And finally, there was the issue of presence of partners. Karamoja heard what you're looking at and asking about motivation, not because of what the parents are doing, but because there was a strong, or there are strong partners on the ground.
Okay.
The other places which had none, of course, they couldn't do much. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we give a round of applause to our panelists, please? Oh, come on, let's give them another one, please. Thank you so much, panelists. Don't you deserve a photograph? Huh? Please, a photo with the panelists. Honorable, please come, don't run away. We take a photograph. Yes, as the Honorable is coming, I think for me, coordination is very critical. Let's take that. And I also think we need to link agricultural production and also school meals. That's also quite very, very, very important. I think panelists first, and also the Honorable member can also come and join us, please. Thank you so much. And I think, Eric, you can come and have your microphone. And it was a pleasure moderating this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Country Director Sesberg, for that wonderful time with our panelists. And I also want to thank the audience for being a good audience and being in class. End of today's, but a few things. One, we have lunch. I know there's someone who wanted to sabotage lunch, but he wasn't very successful. So we have lunch after here. The report will be forwarded to you at request because we don't have your emails, but you have our emails. It will be forwarded, but it will be printed. It will be printed. But if you can't wait and you want to, sometimes we don't want to give the raw, the soft copy because some people may manipulate it. So if you are not one of the manipulators, just wait. We print the copies and you'll be able to get a printed copy. So our lunch will be guided by the hotel. Thank you very much and have a good day.
My name is Ryan. I am 14 years old. Before, when I went to school, my stomach was always empty. The teachers would ask questions, but my head felt like the answers were hiding far away. Sometimes I even thought of going back home because it is hard to learn when you haven't eaten. But everything changed because of my mother. This is my mother. She works in the fields every day, even when the heat is sharp and the ground is very dry. She grows sorghum, beans, maize, and sunflower. Before, she sold them at the market for very little money. But one day, she heard that World Food Program was buying food from farmers like her. She did not believe it at first, but she went to see for herself. Soon, she was delivering bags of her maize to World Food Program. A few weeks later, our school started giving us meals. and the food tasted familiar. One day, our teachers told us this food is from farmers from here in Karamoja, maybe even your homes. That evening, I asked Mama, "Is this your maize?" She laughed and said, "Maybe. Eat well and read well. That is why I work." Now I go to school excited. My stomach is full and my mind feels strong. I can answer questions.
We work with over 68 schools, but none of those 68 schools have what? In a solar kitchen. Some schools actually are able to mobilize food, but they don't have firewood. The whole place has sugarcane, so firewood is costly for them. So as we talk about children eating in school, we have to think about
My name is Ryan. I am 14 years old. Before, when I went to school, my stomach was always empty. The teachers would ask questions, but finish my work, I even help my friends. Tomorrow, I will go to school again, but this time, I won't go angry. I will go ready.